Welcome back to the Taylor EV podcast. Shut up, Nick. It's my show. I demand it's my show. Drew. It's totally mine. Okay. How are you doing today, Randy, in specific?
I'm doing quite humble right now.
Okay, I'm glad you are so incredibly humble. And how are you, Nick, other than the intrusion you just caused?
I'm deciding that I'm losing control of this podcast because now we got Drew, the popular YouTuber. Pfft, who would have guessed? And Randy is also now a popular YouTuber. Pfft, who would have guessed? And so I need to maintain control of these podcasts. These are all my shows.
I'm not a popular YouTuber. I have a popular video.
You have a viral video.
I'm in the same department. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that video is doing well. Happy to hear.
It keeps blowing. Every time I look at it, it's like another K went up.
Nice. That's great. That's cool. But you should be more worried about losing control of the show, Nick, because I drove a Tesla Model Y yesterday, and I didn't tell either of you.
That's why you wanted
just
to
now.
That's why you wanted to do this video first.
I wanted to do EV first. Yeah.
Whoa.
You drove a Model Y?
It was a surprise. At the time of recording this, no one publicly knows about it, so don't make any tweets yet. But by the time this podcast airs, the video will be up. So
okay.
I figured I would catch your guys' live reaction.
That was my live reaction.
I'm actually like, wait, what? How?
I didn't buy one.
Oh, okay.
We'll just
bummer.
Cross
Moving on, Randy, what do you think?
No Model Y was purchased. But
I know because I looked at my referral code and I didn't see.
Yeah, you would probably know before everybody else just from the referral code. But, a fan reached out to me after I did a live stream on Taylosive EV a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, I'm not too far from you. I got a Model Y, incredibly low VIN number, by the way.
Ooh,
under. I don't know if I should say the exact number. I'm not sure if people can do anything
just
with that
the general range.
Okay, it was under 120.
120.
Put it that way. It was the first 120. It was of the first 120 Model Ys built, and I was not expecting him to let me drive it, but he did.
Wow.
And we scheduled it a couple weeks back and said that I'm doing a little road trip to meet up with some family, and he was making a little road trip to meet up with some family around the same time. So I was like, hey. That would be great if I could just get some B-roll shots. That would be awesome. So that's all I was expecting from this awesome fan, Mike. And he was just like, once we started doing the meetup, he was like, okay, you ready to drive it? And I was like, you're okay with that? So I apologize if my impressions seem unoriginal or non-unique, because for those who don't recall, the last Tesla I drove was March of 2019.
Wow.
So it's been quite a while since I've driven any Tesla.
What's that like?
Let alone sit in one. And yeah, it's been a little while. I was getting comfortable with a lot of things that were not unique to the Y. And we didn't have a crazy amount of time. We basically just had the meetup last for a little over an hour. But wow. I'm so glad I got to see it in person, sit in it, and check out the glass roof and the hatchback. And I was really happy that he was willing to let me drive it. And
that's awesome.
I was in heaven the whole time.
Wow.
It was cool. It was not exactly as large as it may seem in pictures, just from looking at it a lot. But it's a totally manageable size after finally looking at it. I'm still taller than it. It's not quite my height, but you watch a ton of videos and you see a lot of hands-on videos and stuff with it. And once you actually start, looking in the back seats and start looking at the storage space, you're like, oh, okay. Now I have a size to compare it to. I get it. And it very much feels like so incredibly similar to the Model 3 in footprint and in design that it almost makes me wonder if they shouldn't have called it the Y and just called it Model 3 hatchback or Model 3 Plus or something like that. But I dug the design.
So
it was awesome.
You're the only one who's been in both now. And...
Wow.
Yes! Finally.
Now you have something.
Also, this means that I'm the only one of the show who hasn't driven a Tesla since March of 2019.
Yes! Take that.
So, my question
I'll
is...
see you guys later. I don't deserve this show.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Cool. Now that we've cut in some dead weight around here,
Please take me back. Please.
I mean, all right, fine, I guess. So my question
Yeah.
is, now that you've been in both and all that, and you were always been on the fence between which model you'd be more interested in, has this given you more clarity between the two, knowing what you got to see and experience?
A little bit, yeah. It kind of gave saturated impressions on what my previous thoughts were. So before it was like standard range Y would be awesome. That would be great.
Yeah.
But there's nothing really that wrong with the 3. And now it's maybe just because the Y is more fresh. And I haven't test driven a 3 in obviously a long time. So maybe the next time I try a 3, I'll be like, you know what, this is fine. I'm happy with this. But now it's just like ideal situation. If they price the standard range Model Y at $41K, that thing's going to sell like crazy. That's going to be fantastic. That's going to be an insane deal for the money. And I still have a hard time believing they're going to hit that, considering the cheapest Model Y right now is still $53,000. So suddenly, one night just launching a 41K version of it seems a little far-fetched, but at the same time, the sticker price still says Model Y 41K. So, and they announced it at 39. So it's still higher than originally promised, which is fair considering back then autopilot wasn't included and the Aero wheels were originally going to be the default, and now it's Gemini wheels. So I can understand why. Also, back when they launched the Model Y, black was the free color. Now it's the multi-coat white. So I can understand why the standard range will be more expensive than they originally thought. But it's the best of everything, essentially. You've got the practicality. In a lot of ways, I realized that the Model Y kind of replaces, I think, a lot of people's use cases for the Model S in a ton of ways. Because it feels like you've got that powered hatchback, and you've got the ton of cargo space, and you can sit 5 people, maybe 7. After seeing the car in person, I'm like, there is no way that third row is going to work. I'm sorry. I just seeing it in pictures and stuff was one thing, and seeing it in person, I'm like, no, this isn't going to work. Unless they do something drastic, like they do the rear-facing thing, like Monroe was talking about. But other than that, man, they really need to update that site, because it is downright false advertising for them to say that it can seat 7 adults with that third row option. There is no I was just crawling in the back of that hatchback and pushing against the second row seating, and I was like, no way. You have to drastically redesign the car. It would be much more than like a $3,000 add-on at checkout. You need to beef up the glass in the back or something, or completely scoop out that bottom cargo space. If they do put in a third row, which Elon is saying they are, they're going to have to basically gut the entire back storage area. There's going to be nothing but seats back there. But yeah, the people who want the Model S to be redesigned to be more like the 3 with the landscape display and that kind of thing, if that's what you want, basically get a Y. You've got the hatchback, you've got the extra the cargo space. Yeah, I guess you don't have the insane range of performance that the S does, but it's a very up-to-date interior. And what I loved about, yeah, definitely way cheaper. And what I loved about driving it was it's definitely not full-size SUV territory. I now understand the crossover genre a lot better, because once you get up close and personal with it, you're like, oh, okay, it's not giant overbearing vehicle. It drives like a sedan. It really does feel like you're driving, because I'm driving a Sonata everywhere these days. And when I switched over that, it didn't feel like, because I've occasionally driven things like Toyota Highlanders, which I would call more of a full-size type SUV, and driving those things around feels like driving a boat. It feels like everything's swaying, and you feel like you're huge, and it's hard to pull into parking spots. I pulled into probably 3 or 4 parking lots while we were test driving the Model Y, and it was so easy to keep it parked into spaces because it's such a compact footprint. You have all this cargo space, but it's not overbearing. It's not filling in a bunch of space on the road, so you still feel like it's kind of the opposite thing you had with the Cybertruck of like, once you see it in person, it's huge, and you're like, how is this going to stay between the lines and stuff? With this, it's totally manageable just with all the perks of the additional cargo. And I will also say the glass roof is it's definitely not. I don't think that should be the main selling point if anyone's considering it. after sitting in the back seat and looking out, it's gorgeous and it's cool, but when you're driving, you really don't see it at all. It is very much like it's tinted, and to the driver and people in the front seat, it might as well just be a normal body color roof because of how dark it is. And at least here in California, like the majority of the time, that glass roof is just going to be kind of dark blue sky. I guess if you drive through maybe places with lots of trees or the city, maybe that would be cooler for people in the back seat. But for me, that's by no means a selling point. And if this was not a Tesla and it didn't have the cool backup camera features, and I finally got to mess around with the updated autopilot and full self-driving. We went through the stoplights and stuff. That was awesome. So I never got to do that when you guys visited with the Model 3. So now I finally got to see the stop sign. No, it's cool that much has changed in that amount of time. And after driving it myself, I was like, yeah, I think the glass roof pushes that back column a lot further down than the 3. And if it weren't for those cameras, I would say the Model Y has pretty horrible rear-facing visibility. The side view mirrors, maybe I'm just used to my Sonata and its chunk mirrors, but the side view mirrors on the Model Y are pretty crammed. They're pretty tiny. And the rear view mirror,
they're probably
because
the
of
Model
that
3 mirrors.
Yeah, I think they are, and I just haven't driven a 3 in a while, so I'm not familiar with it. But
we don't use mirrors; we use cameras now.
Exactly. The cameras justify it, so I can just and now they've updated it so you can see your blind spot angles too. So I got to try that out, and I was like, okay, cool. Now I can see everything behind me just from one tap away. But if that tap wasn't there, that rear view mirror above the display is practically useless. I can barely see anything through that because it basically points directly at the center column in the back of the Y. Whereas I don't remember the 3 having that issue because the 3's column is up pretty high in the back.
The 3 you can see out the back, but
yeah, from what I recall.
I use that just to look at my passengers. I don't use it for outside. I use because I have my 3 cameras on at all time while I'm driving. So unless I'm navigating somewhere that's completely new and I need the GPS. If I'm going somewhere I'm familiar with, I just have the cameras on for outside visibility. Then I use the rear view mirror to just look at anybody behind me. And most of the time I'm by myself or I'm with my wife, so I don't really even look at it then.
Right. After that software change, I was kind of like, I can see why they don't need the mirrors on the Cybertruck at this point. If you're just tapping there and you can see right behind you really well, then why bother?
So are you sold? Are you sold on the Y over the 3? Or are you still thinking 3 is just save money?
The thing is, it has a lot of similarities. We got to talk to him and his wife, and they loved chatting about it too, which was awesome. They weren't they were like,
I don't think you find a Tesla owner who goes, it's all right, and just be very dismissive.
It was cool talking to him.
A Ford, but Tesla's.
Well, I mean, it was either this or like a Nissan Versa or something. I was like,
yeah. Well, it was cool talking to him because he was like, it's objectively better, and I agree, it's objectively better than a 3 in pretty much every metric. Like we did the 0 to 60. Oh my God. I think it's a whole different experience when you're up that high. I think it's just a little different when you're sitting high off the ground because I remember flooring it with the 3 you guys brought, but with this it just felt.
What was the configuration that Michael had?
It's not the performance. It's just the dual motor long range.
What color?
But it's gray with the 20-inch wheels.
Interior?
And it's just a black interior.
Okay.
I think it's because it was one of the first 120 made. That was like one of the first batches was blue and gray, I think. But he had a few quality control issues with it that I could notice. There was a couple panel gaps, a few things not lining up. But what I noticed that I talked to him a bit about it, and I was like, so you're going to get them working on that? And he was like, yeah, I let him know about it. We haven't scheduled an appointment or anything yet, but he said, I think people blow that out of proportion. He was saying, like, it's kind of annoying, but it's not the reason people buy the car, It's not like I'm buying a Tesla because I want to see those rear seats perfectly aligned in the back. It's like, yeah, it would be better if they were fixed, and Tesla should know about them and apply these to the current assembly line and everything, but at the same time, they're so minuscule. Like, what people do when they make videos about the QC, when they get really close and exaggerate the paint missing or the panels not lining up, it looks really drastic in video form kind of like how I talked about, I've seen countless videos about the Model Y. I've been binging Model Y content from as many channels as I can, and the car looks pretty big, and then when you see it in person, you're like, oh, okay, this is way more manageable. It's not that bulky. It's not as tall as you think it is. And same thing with the quality control. When you see those little panel gaps, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it doesn't line up exactly, but I don't even know if I would contact Tesla about that, just because it's such a tiny, small, like, it doesn't interfere with my enjoyment of the car. What I love about the car is the fact that it's electric, it can drive itself, and it's comfortable, and it's got all these cool smart features, and all that works, and it's still super safe. But yeah, he said he's going to try to get he at least has it reported so Tesla's aware. If he wants to get that stuff fixed, he just feels like people make a bigger deal out of it than it really is. So,
do you notice any weird vibrations or like any rattling?
No.
Like for me, the panel gaps aren't a big deal, but like things rattling around inside the wall, like that's.
Yeah, I'm probably a terrible person to review these types of cars. That's sort of the problem. It's because, again, I drive a '07 Sonata.
Me too. My car has all of the creaks and squeaks.
Yeah, it has there's all kinds of panel gaps and paint chips in that thing. So when I get in front of a, $60,000 Model Y, I'm not really paying
it has
attention
air
if there's any
conditioning?
noises. That's exactly what I said. We got in the car and I was like, wow, it's so cool in here. There's AC.
And the guy, Michael's like, yeah, I know, this is really cool ceiling. And you're like, no. The temperature is really, really cool.
Yeah. Just changing the AC. They had a little puppy with them, so they were using dog mode too.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a cute dog. So, yeah, I loved driving it, but I really didn't notice any type of interior noises or that kind of thing. One thing I noticed that I don't recall experiencing with the Model 3, maybe it happened and I just totally forgot about it, was when the car... Oh, you know what I think it was? Back when you guys let me drive the Model 3 last year, I don't know if they let regenerative braking go to a complete stop yet, did they? Or was that added later?
I remember not trusting that.
I think regenerative braking has come to a complete stop. I
feel like that wasn't a thing back when you guys visited.
Because when I got mine, it felt very intuitive that because I hardly really use the brake. I use regenerative braking, and it didn't feel like it was a new concept for me.
Okay.
But honestly, I think my memory is just skewed now because all I do is I remember my own. So I'm honestly trying to remember because there were differences, but I don't think regenerative braking was. I don't think it's changed, to tell you the truth. I'm not
sure.
So.
I remember YouTubers saying that it now takes you to a complete stop. So more people were doing one pedal driving, but I can't remember exactly. But what I noticed is that when the Model Y came to a complete stop, I could feel the accelerator kind of click a little bit. When it just come to a complete stop, you feel the pedal just, it just kind of locks in place. And I don't remember that about the 3. At first, I thought something was wrong. I was like, oh no, I broke it. And he was like, no, it does that. That's just how you know that the car is no longer moving. And the regen felt really high compared to last time I drove. It felt like the car could stop a lot harder. So I'm just bringing
that's
that up. That's
customizable. You can adjust if you want that to be or not.
I remember we had the settings, but I was just like, you want to be cautious with me driving the car, so leave that on. Let it slow down as much as you can. But the 0 to 60 on this thing was insane. Way more performance than I would ever ask for. I'm definitely not sold that I need a dual motor. That amount of performance I would do for maybe 1 or 2 videos and then probably never again. And I would much rather just borrow someone else's and do it and pay the extra money for it. Because, oh my God, when we floored it, the blood in my face just instantly shot to the back of my head, and my eyes were about to fall out of my face. I was just like,
just that scene from Spaceballs.
Yeah, I just.
Did you ever go to Six Flags Magic Mountain, Drew?
No, I'm not a roller coaster guy, but that's how I would compare it.
That's what it feels like. It feels like one of the rides that launches you to go, whoa. Yeah.
And that wasn't even the performance variant. So I can't imagine, and this is not even as fast as the Model 3. So I have identified myself as not a performance junkie. I really don't need that kind of speed. It's insanity. I'd be more than happy with a single motor rear wheel drive, which just makes me all the more curious about when that's coming, because They're ahead of schedule. From the VINs people are seeing right now, it sounds like they've produced well over 20,000 Model Ys. And they're ramping way faster than the 3. And I'm sure that because the Fremont factory doesn't have to produce the Y globally now, because China's building their own Model Ys, and Berlin is going to provide all the Model Ys for Europe. China.
I had to do it once.
That's right.
I had to do it at least.
So I feel like with the Fremont factory, they had to produce Model 3s for basically the entire world. So production was a bit more limited, whereas now the Fremont factory basically just has to produce enough Model Ys for the American market, including Canada. So I feel like there's a chance they could start doing standard range by the end of this year, but I'm not in that boat of like
chance.
There's a chance. That would be like the preferred model, but like I'm not saying I wouldn't be happy with a 3 because again, after experiencing it, the Y's best selling point is definitely the cargo space and the powered hatchback. I know some people may not think that is a big deal, but to me that was just incredible because I brought lots of camera gear and tripods and stuff, and when we did the test drive, the fact that I was in the driver's seat and I could just hit open, and by the time I got out of the car and got to the back, the hatchback was already open all the way. And
man, we need to get you to at least 2010 or something. Like if that's your breathtaking moment, I need to give you a hug.
Randy's feeling we're privileged over here.
AC was pretty awesome.
Well, I don't have a
Best
power
feature.
back, and I agree. Like I think that'd be something I would love to have on mine. But like
honestly, if they just added that to the Model 3, even with a tiny trunk like that, I think that would make it a solid, way more fun vehicle just for that practicality of it. But I know there's aftermarket stuff you can do, but they're very similar. Like I was talking to Mike and his wife, and they were basically saying they were kind of considering getting a 3 as well as a Y. And there's a lot of similarities there, and the 3 is obviously cheaper. And I'm not in a lot of road trip situations where I need that extra cargo space, so I'm not like gonna get the Y no matter what. I absolutely need the Y, but it's definitely my top pick right now. That's for sure.
So,
because
in this installment of what kind of Tesla does Drew want this week? It's a single motor standard range Model
Well, if you
Y.
listen to the first 20
right.
minutes of the show, I think you know which one he wants this week.
Yeah. If they price it at 41, that's like perfect. I think that would
you
be,
get FSD on top of that?
Eventually, probably not with the purchase though. I would wait. I think honestly, using autopilot again, I was reminded kind of how jerky it is. It's kind of still naggy in certain situations, and it doesn't quite move like a human does, and it's got a ways to go. So I honestly, because autopilot comes standard, I wouldn't mind just living with autopilot for a while, and then down the road I kind of want to get FSD right before they up it. I feel like that's how you justify it. It makes it sound better in your head. Well, it's 9,000 now, but I got it for 8,000. But other people are doing that same game. I got it for 5,000
now. I
it's
got it for free.
Speaking of, didn't that happen last week? They
Last
just
week?
upped the price.
Did they?
Your software purchase, Randy, has now gone up in value.
That's just
Your car is
because
appreciating.
Oh,
Yep.
actually, it's maintaining its current value because that's it's always going to inflate. That's
Some depreciation.
Yeah.
FSD
Then
goes
it
up though.
appreciated. Now
and
we're
like
back.
a part of me goes like I could never justify buying full self driving for anything less than 7 or something. But it's like
Someone who has it would say that.
yeah, no, that's my point. It's like I don't think I could ever like if it keeps going up.
You got
Like
it
I
for
can
what? 5?
6.
6?
And even then, I was just like, yeah, I wanted it at 5. But
Yeah, well, obviously we
Yeah.
all want it less.
well, so
want
my
a
thing is
Tesla
that
for
like
$3,
my brain tells me like I can never pay the current price, and I can't justify paying 10 grand or whatever. And then I think about the Cybertruck reservation being locked in for 7, and it's like this is where as time goes on, they're going to purposely offset it by at least, I would say, half. So by the time Cybertruck, if they keep increasing like that, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, okay, the next big bump in full self-driving will be when, like, if it's full autonomy or if it becomes able to
Turning.
do U-turns.
Yeah.
Then it's like, all right, now this is now a $12,000 feature. And this is now. Oh, and also with full self driving, and that now you get even the more enhanced summon and go park, all
Right.
those.
Elon
little,
said there's a big fundamental rewrite they're going to be rolling out over the next 2 to 4 months that kind of basically there's like several different stages of autopilot working simultaneously, and they're going to work on like merging it all into one process, which is supposed to, I don't know. There's supposed to be big changes coming in the next couple months, and then he said it will just be a matter of checking with regulators to see what's allowed to legalize, but internally it should be pretty solid. So I'm excited to see that kind of stuff roll out.
I find myself using less full self driving as the longer I have the vehicle. Because not because I don't trust it, or it's not because I don't like it. One, it is a bit still like very jerky and rigidy, and I'm just like,
Sure.
I don't have time for this right now. I don't want to.
It's more of a freeway feature.
Yeah, and even then, sometimes. Oh my God.
Uh-oh.
That was
Here we
quite a
go.
reaction. Story time with Randy coming up next.
So that I repressed it, and that's exactly why I don't use it that much anymore. This is what I'm about to tell you. It's
Okay.
the freeway. It's actually the freeway that's making it worse.
Oh.
So it does this thing where, oh my God. So if you put in the destination, it starts routing you and it's taking you on the thing. It does this thing where it wants to merge over closer to the right lane as it gets closer to the next on ramp, or if you're coming to your exit or whatever. And sometimes you, the human eye, and this ever growing brain that we have, can see the lane in the right is actually the worst one, because they are driving either slower, they're coming to a stop where the lane you are in is completely fine. And the cameras don't give a crap. They put it on, and I'm like, I am going to dismiss it. So I go over, dismiss it. Not even 2 seconds. Dismiss. 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 And I'm just like, boom, boom. I just turn it off. And I'm like,
It wants to get over.
it wants to get over, or it thinks the car in front of me is going slower than what it is, and it wants to get over to a different lane where they really are going slower than what it is, and it thinks that one's going faster, and I don't even have Mad Max on or nothing, and just boom, boom, turn off. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Can you just turn off the lane changing abilities?
It will still yell at you to acknowledge the command. So that you can either have it set to auto, and if it's set to auto, it will navigate.
Well, I'm like saying turn it off. Like if it sounds like the lane changes are not good enough
The
for you.
very moment, Nick, I paid money for this thing.
Okay.
I can't turn it off. I'd rather just put it in autopilot and let it stay its course. I use autopilot more than I use full self-driving, and especially because I don't really use full self-driving for places that I already know where I'm going, because it requires a destination input, and I just don't have that type of time. If I'm going up the road and I'm my closest like grocery store, Nick, as you know, is right there, and sometimes I want to try it at that intersection, and I'm like, I don't have that type of time. It's right. I just want to be in and out and go right back home, and then that's that. So it's only when I start getting like stir crazy in the house that I want to go for drives, and I calm down and I'll do what I got to do. But the moment I get on the freeway, the lane changing aggravates me, and I feel like I am restricting myself the moment I start turning off features, because it's like, why else would you buy full self-driving if not for it to try to perform those things? And I feel like I have an obligation to keep doing certain things and cancel, so that way I can tell Tesla's computers stop doing that. And at one point, it had gotten better. It stopped trying to do that. 2 or 3 updates ago, it came back, and I hate my life. It was around the same time. I got the update where I don't have to acknowledge intersection lights anymore, like that. That update brought the constant blinker change and thinking that the car in front of me is going slow when it's not, and it's like I don't want to be in this one. And then the last gripe of it is I'm driving, minding my own. Nobody's around me, okay? I'm just driving down the freeway, minding my own, and all of a sudden it goes, and it moves over. I'm like, all right, 10 seconds.
Goes back. It's just a show off. It just loves showing you how it can change late.
Basically,
I don't like it because it interrupts my books, my music, my podcast, because it's like la 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 la, boom 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 boom. It wants me to touch the steering wheel. Oh my god. Okay, yes. Here, go. Stop interrupting.
I'd turn those sounds off if I could.
It makes my wife feel a little bit more comfortable hearing those bells and chimes and stuff like that. And I've learned to dismiss the sound, 200% of the time, because I just ignore things that were even things that you can't ignore. I ignore them, but just the idea of it's the blinking noise. The blinking noise is just so consistent. God, go away.
You should write a song on the screen with the blinking sound as your.
I tried, Nick. You know. Ha ha.
You've sure got the sound effect down though. You've got that
boom, 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 boom. Yeah,
so basically
I know
what
all
I've heard is
sounds.
Randy complaining that his car drives itself. That's all I've heard, because my car, it has cruise control, and that's
I'm
about
complaining that my car.
And Randy's over here like, my car wants to change
my
lanes
smart
too
car.
frequently. Oh my gosh,
My smart
it's
car is
unbearable,
being
folks. Don't
dumb.
buy it. It's unbearable.
You expect more from a car with these type of technologies.
Well, I expect that if I say cancel, shut up.
Don't ask.
Stop doing it. I get it when I'm about to. One thing that I will understand is if I'm about to merge to an on ramp or I'm getting off the exit, and it's like, hey, you're going to miss your exit. Totally get that. Those aren't the times it does it. It just wants to do it randomly, even when I'm not getting to the point. When I got like 7 miles before the next change on my map happens, it should not be trying to prompt me to move over, or it wants to go back, or just to its thing. I'm like, why? And then randomly, these blind spots, the camera, the side cameras will say the sight is impaired. Can't complete navigations, and I'm like, oh, thank God you're not going to use the blinker anymore.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'll pitch the ball to you, see if you swing. Do you regret buying full self-driving? If you're using it less and less, and you prefer autopilot,
Home run.
Would you rather just have the $6,000?
Oh.
I'm trying to answer this correctly as possible. I'd rather pay $6,000 and have the final, 1.0 than pay $9,000 for beta 7 we're on, or whatever this is.
That's what I thought. That's what I figured. Because in my opinion, when you're paying for full self-driving, if you're just buying it because you want the features it offers today, it's not worth it.
Hell no.
If someone doesn't believe full self-driving could ever be possible, or robo-taxis aren't possible, then no. The navigate on autopilot, the smart summon, that stuff, it's not worth $7,000, $8,000. It's probably not even worth $5,000. What you're paying for is Tesla's promise. Whether or not it will be delivered, in my opinion, is somewhat irrelevant. You're paying for whatever Tesla comes up with. You're going to get the latest version of it. Whatever turning is possible, whatever autonomy is possible, you're going to have the cutting edge, the latest possible software version that they're capable of making. And as we've seen over the years, it has improved. There have been changes. There has been a lot of stuff added to it.
Improve quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, but
why is
buying
parking so garbage?
Right. I don't know why the parking doesn't use the cameras yet. It still just relies on
ultrasonic sensors.
Ultrasonic sensors alone, which I still find bizarre. But you're basically just buying that you're going to get the latest of what we can develop, and if you don't care about the latest of what they're going to develop and you're just looking at it as a feature set today, no, wouldn't recommend it. Which is why, like you said, autopilot's probably the best feature overall, and now that's considered standard. You just get that included. So at this point, just enjoy autopilot, and then if you're
If
in
somebody
a
was to
position
tell me that they don't want full self-driving at all, I would never recommend a Tesla. If they just want an EV for the sake of environmental consciousness and saving money on gas, get a Nissan
I could
Leaf.
still recommend it.
I-
That thing's terrible.
Well, yeah.
The range
well,
is like 150 miles.
Most people who I talk to who are living in the city and stuff like that, they can get by just fine with 150. And actually, they do get by just fine. I have family, well, extended family now. They're, not. Anyway, I have extended family that I forgot had a Nissan Leaf. And they're like, oh, yeah, this thing works. It's fine. They're like, it's no Tesla, but it's fine. And I'm
exactly.
like,
It's no Tesla.
yeah, but then I always ask, especially people who have EVs. I got a friend of mine. He has a e-Golf, a Volkswagen e-Golf, and he loves that thing. It's very quick. It picks up, and it's very fast. And
Volkswagen doesn't have a tailpipe emissions problem with the e-Golf.
That's right. So, him and his wife got it around the same time I actually got my Model 3 last year. I used to work with him, and he told me, he goes, man, I don't even want this e-Golf. I keep telling my wife I want to get a Tesla. And I was like, well, why? He's like, for what the e-Golf is, it's great. I love it, but I want a Tesla because I want it to drive itself. And he's like, that's all I care about. And I'm like, right? Like, why would you buy
That's a big
anything
part
else?
of it.
Yeah.
I just think that there's still a huge demographic of people that could not care about full self-driving and still really love the Model 3.
Well, so when it comes to other networks, charging networks, when it comes to parking situations, his wife could not care less about full self-driving, and they're like, what's the cheapest? But they're also now they're expecting, they're gonna have a baby, so they're like, what is something that is easy for children, and this, that, and they have other expenses to worry about, and they're like, I don't see the value in spending $35,000 on getting this particular vehicle when we can spend that money elsewhere, what have you. And one thing that I need a pivot on something, because I'm gonna make a Tesla experience video about this, but I need to just say it here and tell you guys. I know, Nick, clip this part and just send it to me or something, so I can put it on Twitter and everything. I'm gonna ignore you guys for a second. I know people don't park trucks in their garage. I know. With that, I don't live in a house. I live in a condo, a one-car condo that also, a one-car garage condo that also doubles as a storage unit of things that are only seasonal. The Cybertruck will not fit in a one-car garage, specifically my one-car garage. My property that was supposed to use my property that was built. My property was built in the 70s. Things were smaller back then. 2, this is San Diego. Everything, just pretend San Diego is like a little bit more open, but still cramped New York. Where the hell are you gonna park a Cybertruck in a car garage or anything in a metropolitan city? LA, when you think of LA, if you're thinking Beverly Hills and stuff like that, that's the 1%. Okay, big cities don't just have residential urban sides of yard space and driveways for days and 2-car garages. I know you don't park your truck in the garage. I get that. I can't put my car on the street because there is no parking there. You get fined. It doesn't matter. I get it's resistant. I understand the stainless steel, thick thing. No one's gonna break in that thing. Well, somebody threw metal at the windshield and it shattered. So I'll take my chances with the garage instead. But
do that with any car.
All this to say, I know, but where I live and exactly I'm speaking for me specific, not just regional. My situation. I either park right in my garage or my carport, which will only fit one of two vehicles that we have, or it has to go so far up the road, I have to walk a mile to get to it. And I'm not doing that. Just so, hey, well, no one's going to get into it. No. Secondly, I live in the city that was trending on Twitter because of riots and stuff like that. People will try to break into our stuff. Before all this happened within the last month, my sister-in-law had her regular Ford truck broken into. They broke into the glass because it was parked on the street. It's just a thing. No, I hear you. I know you. People don't understand that my situation, when I say it's too big, I can't fit it here, I'm not trying to stay here, and my place is too small. So situations may vary.
So what you need to do before you buy the Cybertruck, you and your wife need to come move to the country where you can have a pickup that just sits outside.
No.
Just saying.
No. I'm not moving to the country. I'll move to the mountains.
Well, you're probably not the primary demographic then, is probably how Tesla sees it. The market they're going after wants these type of large pickups.
Well, to be fair,
them outside.
To be fair, and I have to speak. I'll speak for both of us, but I'm speaking for my wife here.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to move to Austin. You know, she wants to go somewhere where it's cheaper. And when we were in Austin last year looking at property, then it's complete polar opposite from San Diego. Yard space for days, driveways for days. It's a whole different situation. And if Tesla, would finally just be like, yes, okay, yeah, we're moving to Austin. If they would just do that, I would very promptly and efficiently apply for a position with Tesla over there and be like, hey, I'm a customer, I'm a fan, and I work in tech. So, I mean tech outside of this stuff, like actual tech.
Yeah.
So I would try to get hired on there, and it'd be more of an incentive to uproot to Austin and walk away from government work over here. That would be cool. That's the dream. Yeah.
Or Tulsa, as Elon is there right now.
Yeah.
Checking it out.
Well,
there ain't much going on in Tulsa. Let's just say
I prefer Austin.
Tesla would be the largest manufacturer in Tulsa. Tulsa's great. Been there, but
probably in Oklahoma at that point. If it's going to be a Terra factory.
No.
I would be excited because Tulsa's a little bit closer to me, and I could feasibly, sit out on the side of the highway and just watch them make my Cybertrucks, which would be kind of cool. But I think Austin's probably the better.
And Sweeney, what are you talking about? Once they go to Austin, we can finally uproot you to Texas. What are you talking about? This was our master plan.
You can't beat the rent here, so that's all I'll say.
It's hard.
I definitely live in my mother's attic. Just saying.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with living in an attic. Humble beginnings.
Humble beginnings.
AC for this podcast because I know Drew will relate here. It's hot and sweaty, summertime. I turn on the AC so you hear the hissing, but you don't.
Back in the 70s and 80s, companies started. The biggest companies started in garages. In the 2000s, attics.
Yes, attics. All the attics.
I'm a bit of an addict myself.
Where dreams are born.
Oh.
One might say I'm an attic addict.
Hey.
What about Elon has confirmed full self-driving as a subscription option coming later this year. Could you see yourself ever not buying full self-driving outright, but just paying for it once a month whenever you plan a big road trip?
I'm going to take this one real quick. I think that it.
I already gave my answer.
Okay, Randy didn't have to say anything, so all the audio listeners are really confused because the people are still listening on iTunes.
They know.
And I'm like,
they know me. They know.
They know.
What? Anyway.
Hi, iTunes listeners. We love you.
Hi there. I'm waving at you, but you can't see. I'm definitely waving right now. Anyway, the full self-driving I think makes a lot of sense because I've locked in the 7,000 price with all my Cybertruck reservations. And I feasibly, definitely 100% see myself getting at least the single motor in 2024 when my reservation number comes up. So like I'm pretty confident that like I can swing that financially and make that a smart decision. Like, of course, I could go out and buy a Model 3 right now in some huge loan, but I'm not going to do that because I'm smart.
That's cool.
Of course.
Finance
Everything. But so I'm going to be waiting for the $40,000 Cybertruck for sure. Hopefully sooner, but for sure. So I think still that $7,000 FSD does make sense. That being said, I think Tesla's going to run into the problem like Adobe and a lot of these large app publishers have run into. They used to sell all their products as one software bundle you bought, right? Like Microsoft Office. You bought the Microsoft Office 2008 suite, and you had that, and you had the products until they died. But they had to get updates, and it cost them, cost Microsoft money to update. Same with Adobe. You used to buy just the Adobe CS6 or whatever it was, and you had the whole Creative Suite. But Adobe had to invest money and keep paying money to make those apps work with newer software. And I think Tesla's going to run into that exact same problem within the decade. So by the end of the 2020s, I think Tesla will have run into the problem where they've sold a bunch of people the one time, Tesla. Remember back in 2012, package. Elon was like, all Model S's and Model X's will have free supercharging forever. They're never going to have to pay for. Okay, those people who bought it then don't, but new people, guess what?
Change their mind later.
Exactly.
On. Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be what's.
Well, when the range is 60 miles, you should probably get.
They get the sympathy range.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at some point Tesla's going to have to stop allowing people to buy it outright, and they're going to have to start charging people probably annually and not as much as this monthly stopgap thing. Because that monthly thing really doesn't seem like a good deal in the long term. If like you're literally only planning on using it for like 3 or 4 times in the entire vehicle's lifetime, I guess that monthly thing kind of makes sense. But
that's what I could see happening though. Honestly, it depends a lot how they price it. That's the thing. We don't exactly know
it's $10 a
how
month,
they're going to price it.
Guess, but
well, yeah.
I don't think it's going to be $10 a month.
Yeah. No, or if they lock it into a contract of some kind, like it's not month to month. If they did something like that, I'm really excited to see how they make the subscription offer work, because they could make it really competitive in a way that people start to realize maybe subscribing to it over the life of the car, depending on how long you own it or depending on how often you use it, it might make more financial sense to not buy it outright. I know Elon has been pushing everyone to buy it outright, obviously, because he doesn't want to say, we're going to launch a subscription option that's going to make buying it outright seem stupid. That then no one would buy it. So he's obviously trying to remind people that buying it outright is still better, but I also feel like anytime Elon talks about FSD, he just kind of takes for granted that, well, everybody's going to use it as a robotaxi and then it'll make you money. So totally makes more sense to buy it outright. But I think there is a growing number of people, probably like Randy or me, that are like, yeah, we want the car to drive itself, but we're not going to let our car drive strangers around to make passive income. I'm not super interested in that unless, years down the road, I'm barely driving the car and it's just sitting in the garage all the time. But other than that, I pretty much just want the car to be mine and it can drive me, but no one else. So to those people, if you're really only utilizing it on a few road trips a year and you only have to pay for 2 to 3 months out of a 12-month block over the course of the car's life, it might end up making more sense. It might end up being cheaper. So it all comes down to how they price it, whether it's $100 a month or $200 a month. But the good news is it should bring full self-driving revenue that Tesla doesn't currently have, because there's a bunch of people that aren't willing to spend $8,000 on it. But if they get to try it out for a month or two for $200, that's much more obtainable to a ton of people. So
I hate
think it's a good move.
I just hate them.
Me too. But it has to end like that, though, right? Like Adobe.
Not for me.
What is it, $60 a month? Well, I think we're going to be okay because we'll be grandfathered. But any new Teslas we get, I think it's going to be a lot like Adobe, where it's like...
And your car won't last forever. Randy. Your FSD isn't locked to your account; it's locked to your car.
Exactly.
And eventually, your car isn't going to be your car anymore. I mean, it could last a long, long time, but it's going to be a different situation in probably 30 years, or even 20, depending on, heaven forbid, if there was an accident or something, and you had to replace that car. You don't get FSD.
So I can understand when it comes to energy, providing energy, that it was free at one point, and then no, we had to obviously charge you to power the product. I understand energy. I don't necessarily understand software in the sense that. Let me say this. Let me make a recommendation. If you're not going to get full self-driving as a whole, when building out your new Tesla, not buying used. Buying used is kind of expensive thing. Imagine taking out some of the parts that are vital for full self-driving, and in exchange you get a lower cost vehicle. The actual promised 30,000, for example. And
like without the radar and without the
take that stuff out then, in the sense that, like, if it's not capable or compatible with FSD, lower the cost of the car, because where I'm getting at with all this is that it's obviously about, like, how can we keep revenue still flowing, how can we maintain a profit, how can Tesla grow as a company, and so there are people who are just not interested in that stuff. Take out the vital hardware fundamentals that are needed for it, and let it just be a really, amazing EV, and that's it. And people who want full self-driving, when you are building in your basically allow more customization within your vehicle, and people who want that FSD, even if it's like I don't know, then allow that possibility to happen, and also or allowed to buy it outright for a substantially higher price, because it's gonna, it's worth six figures according to Elon. So if it ever gets to the point where it's valued at that, and that's what you're gonna pay, give the power to the people to decide how they want to customize their Tesla. Today, I understand why it doesn't make sense. Let's just get the assembly line under control and get all our factories up and going and grow from there. But when we get to that kind of more mature segment of Tesla's automobile industry, give more control, so that way people can either buy it outright for a very, very premium upfront cost, or you can have a subscription that will let you tailor to certain tiers, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 1 month, and just like music subscriptions, like it'll be cheaper if you buy the longer package of it, but still, if you're just trying to avoid costs for that month, then you can get a monthly one, or let you price the vehicle where you don't want full self-driving at all, and you more or less live with that, right? Because that's you can't go. Well, I guess you could go back and change it, but ultimately, people who are not interested in it, don't put all the capabilities, the cameras and all that stuff, the sensors, all that stuff in there if you're not going to do it. Lower the cost of the vehicle that way, and Tesla can then still make a pretty decent return on their vehicles on the lower end, because now you got people who can afford it for $20,000 or whatever it would be at that point. So I
don't think that's the problem. Is that full self-driving hardware is used for so many other things besides full self-driving, and it's not expensive parts. That's the thing. That's why I think they put it in every Tesla, is because it's not tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. It's a few camera sensors, radar,
smartphone
like the
cameras, and a little radar.
Yeah, it's
but the value doesn't come from the hardware. The value comes from the software part of it.
Right. That's why I'm saying there's no point in removing that hardware, is because Tesla would rather you have the option to pay them down the road for software unlocking, because it costs them probably $3,000 to $4,000 to include the full self-driving computer, the cameras, all that. Probably not even that much. And if they were to take it out, it wouldn't reduce the price of the car that much, because.
But what if it did? Like, honestly, what if that?
If it did, that'd be different. But I don't believe it does. That's my point. I think that the option of making these software features standard is how Tesla is more of a software company than a car company, is because they know they can accumulate a bunch of revenue. That's why even the $35,000 Model 3 has the full self-driving computer. Even if you don't plan on using it, I mean, those cameras are used for safety measures. The radar is used for safety measures. The backup
and
cameras,
it's all
the side
optional.
cameras.
The thing that's tried and true is mirrors, and I think it can add up over time. Maybe individual items might not cost that much, but I think if you take away all the things that make it a futuristic or even modern vehicle, and things that are very analog, still work just as fine as they've done for a century. I don't think that people
Well, if
would
autopilot's standard now.
It's standard
I
in
don't
its
see
current
them going back on
configuration.
that.
It's not the first time they would walk back on certain things. I don't see them being married to any idea, because it's all software.
Well,
based.
they've just kind of put their foot down so many times on every Tesla leaving the factory today. Has all the hardware for full self-driving. It has all the cameras for.
But that's
autopilot,
marketing,
and this helps
because
with safety.
it's a marketing thing to be like, you can buy it, you can pay for it, and I can understand. And I think it's good marketing, but
and they plan on
not a
long-term
necessity.
gains from that, because if someone sells that car into a third party, then that third party can buy those features too. So I don't see them looking at that as optional or additional. I see them as looking at that as all cars are going to need this, otherwise they're going to have the functionality of a horse if they're not capable of driving themselves, even if the customer doesn't decide to pay for that. I think
really
they see
good point.
long-term gains with the software packages.
That's a really good point with the third-party sales, because right now, if you buy a Tesla, either third-party from Craigslist or on the website, that it does have the hardware to be able to do FSD if it's after 2016 or whatever that date was. I really hope they never change on that, Randy. I don't think they should diversify that,
it potentially compromises on safety.
Then you have two lineups: the FSD, the real Teslas, and then the kind of fake pretty boy Teslas that don't. Because that's really the value that Tesla. That's why I want a Tesla, right? It drives itself. It's the future, and there's reason it's the future. I don't care about the EV-ness. Okay, great. Charging from home's convenient. Okay, great. No tailpipe diesel emissions. Okay, fine. Maybe diesel because truck. But anyway, it's like,
well,
okay,
I know you don't. I just mean, like, I get that not everyone does. A ton of people don't care about the autonomy, but I still don't see that removing those parts would really cost that. It wouldn't offset the cost that much. It all stems from the battery pack mainly.
Yeah, the cost isn't really different, but I don't like, from the marketing perspective, having two separate branches of Teslas. Like, if you think back to like a 2013 Model S or whatever, like, I'd probably never go on record. I will never buy a non-FSD Tesla, or FSD capable at least, because those Teslas, okay, great. They have a few. Very simple autopilot cruise control stuff. Yeah. Even like the old 2013 ones, though, like Autopilot 0 is like literally just cruise control. And it's like, okay, my $1,700 Ford does that. There's no reason for me to upgrade besides the electric vehicle, which I get. Some people want the Tesla for the EV part of it. I, on the other hand, am not super concerned about that. It's a nice feature, and yeah, instant torque, charging from home, that's all convenient and great, but I'm in it for the technology. And I think a lot of people are. I think most of the people who have a
And I think there's other people who are just in it for EV and cost factors. I think there's a people that you can call off-brand stuff the same way you can get the $30,000 Model 3.
As Tesla has already showed, though, it's cheaper for them to not build a cheaper version of the Model 3 with non-motorized seats. It's cheaper for them to software lock the SR Plus to standard range and sell that for $35,000 than it would be for them to start a whole separate assembly line and start taking out things. They've already kind of proven that. So that's why I don't see it as an option in the future. But similar to what Nick was saying about how a lot of software companies used to sell things outright one-time purchase, and they're moving more towards a subscription model, is because whether or not we think it's a good financial move doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if we think buying outright's better than subscribing. Doesn't make a difference, because if you're able to create a subscription that more people can enter on, wise financial decision or not, it opens up more of a user base. So there's way more people now that can sign up for Creative Cloud because they sign up at $20 or $30 a month instead of before when it was like Yeah, then they get trapped instead of what it was before when it was like $600 a program to buy it outright.
Or if you go to Apple, you can get a $300 all-encompassing.
But I wouldn't be shocked if, Apple's a great example of moving into services. They're trying to move everything more towards a subscription model, and I could totally see, especially if Tesla started offering some type of subscription to add full self-driving to every car you own instead of just one in particular, I think could be a lot more incentivizing. Because right now, someone could spend $8,000 on full self-driving and then total the car the next day, and they don't get it on their next Tesla. And they got to buy that.
The insurance company would have to. That's part of the make whole. They have to make them whole, which would mean even if you bought FSD for $6,000 before, the price of it now is $8,000. They'd give you they'd cut you a check to make you whole.
You'd hope.
That's true. Randy's the one who knows the ins and outs of the insurance business, so I just
mean
not
that
be talking on that.
If Randy wanted to buy a different car, or if anybody paid for full self-driving, it doesn't carry over to their next car. So whatever Tesla is charging at that point, you don't get the $6,000 FSD again.
Yeah.
So if there was a way to subscribe and it just applied to every vehicle, I could see Tesla wanting to push that and be like, instead of buying $10,000 worth of software on each car, just subscribe for a couple $100 a month, and now you got it on all your cars. And do the math; it might make more financial sense depending on how long you plan on owning them. So I could see them moving their business model around to be similar to how tech companies structure themselves today.
Yeah, they have to within a decade.
Just to make a note on that whole making you whole thing, Nick, since you brought it up.
Yeah.
If full self-driving is more expensive in the future, they're not going to pay the difference of it.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, because it's not a vital thing to the vehicle. You are adding an accessory. Though software based, it's still an accessory, and your insurance does not cover accessories any different than like they wouldn't cover like bike racks that you would have mounted. If that gets damaged, go buy another bike rack. That doesn't come with the purchase of the vehicle like that. And technically, even though you're like, well, I did come with the purchase, I bought it out. It's a software thing. It's an add-on. It's not something that is actually vital.
Well, I guess I need to get Tesla
insurance is. And I mean, I don't know if they will cover. I mean, if they do, then I would probably recommend it at that point. But insurance only covers you. They cover you only for the vehicle itself, the vital parts of the vehicle and stuff like that. Cosmetics and
that's
software.
That's the most vital
boosts.
part of the Tesla to me. I wouldn't buy a Tesla if it didn't do FSD.
That is objectively wrong.
That is not objectively wrong. You're objectively wrong.
That is objectively wrong.
Well, I could see them changing their mind on it down the road, especially because there has to be some type of delicate balance here when it comes to the number of features it offers versus how much it costs. I'd be really curious to see how many people are buying full self-driving over the years. Has it gone down? Has it gone up? Because the fleet has expanded, but the price has gone up to the point of pretty insane high for a software package. That's a lot of money to spend on some code. And it's getting harder and harder to justify for people. And at the same time, more Teslas on the road, more people driving them, so there's a wider consumer base. But if it gets to the point where they're barely getting any sales because they're expecting everyone to spend $10,000, $12,000 on software, then a $100 to $200 monthly subscription I could see being far more successful for them in the long run, even if it's, again, not a financial choice I would recommend to people. It's just something that people might end up doing. Companies got to bank on poor financial decision making. That's where a lot of it comes from.
Something Tesla has not been doing poor financial decisions on is their Q2. Woo!
Hey, we didn't even talk about that.
It's the most expensive stock I have now.
Yeah,
Nice.
Man, it shot up. Randy, do you still think they're not going to turn a profit?
Do I still what?
Last time we talked about profitability in quarter 2, you said they probably wouldn't turn a profit. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah.
Even with more deliveries than Q1, which they were profitable?
That part I don't know. No.
That
Well,
makes
the thing
it kind
is,
of hard to believe.
yeah, because the thing is, like, all their factories shut down. That hurts. That does hurt.
And they delivered more cars than Q1, which they were profitable in. So thanks to Giga Shanghai, they kind of made up for the factory being closed half the quarter.
Doesn't Giga Shanghai not count towards our profitability on the U.S. side?
No, it counts. It does. It's an American company, so
Yes.
they get to collect the revenue off that. And operating expenses in China are way lower, like close to 60% lower than in the U.S. because of how cheap it is to build cars and operate the factory there. And they produce like 20,000 cars in June.
That's crazy. 20,000 cars.
Oh yeah, China's on fire. It's insane how fast they're able to
In a
build
good
stuff
way.
up.
The U.S. is on fire in another way.
Yeah.
I think it's looking pretty difficult to imagine a quarter where, I mean, yes, the factory being closed hurts, but at the same time, your operating expenses go down because you're not spending money on suppliers and paying people, and
But you still have
if you're
overhead
able to
costs.
produce-
Tesla still paid
It's-
people.
Yeah, they reduced their salaries.
Yeah, well,
though.
they paid PTO time, which cost cash, and
But
vacation.
salary
and sick
cuts
time.
were 10, 20, 30%
Yeah.
across the
Okay,
board for
you're right.
everybody.
I forgot about
And you're
that.
paying suppliers less. And again, if you're able to pull in 88,000 deliveries in Q1, and that was profitable, 90,000 deliveries in Q2, why not profitable?
Because I think there's more than just deliveries. I don't know.
So you think their expenses went up?
Short answer, yes.
Despite the factory being closed.
Really?
I-
You thought
I
their
think there's
expenses went
overhead.
up
I think there's overhead costs that are still.
per
So we're looking
vehicle
at like
expenses
just
or total company expenses.
we're looking at output production, and that's one variable. But then there's costs internally that's still. I mean, employees count towards the the overall expenses as well, and salaries were cut. So that's them trying to obviously save money that way. But there are still people who had to go on unemployment, and everybody got affected by that. Medical expenses. I'm sure out of all how many of them would have been positive for COVID, and so they had to go get all that covered with their insurances and stuff like that. I think there's other expenses that we're just not thinking about. I'm outside of making a car that are at play here. And the thing is, I don't know anybody right now, given COVID, post-COVID, how any of the companies are doing really right now. And so that's why I'm like, I'm still being very reserved that like I think everybody's going to experience some type of loss or some type of down of it. I don't think it'd be the same as for Q1.
Are you talking about operating expenses or business expansion expenses? Because I don't think operating expenses have gone up. If
I have a hard
anything,
time
they've
believing
probably gone down.
what has changed between Q1 and Q2 if there's less, the equipment and the supplies they buy for the factory had to have gone down because they weren't producing as much. And you have super healthy profit margins on the Model Y, which was ramping substantially more in Q2 than Q1. Also, Giga Shanghai ramping, which much higher.
See,
profit
Giga
margin.
Shanghai is the outliner for me. Without that equation in there,
That was their life raft.
Obviously, yeah, that's the only reason why they're pushing
They kept
90,000
afloat.
units this quarter.
Yeah, but there
so
was.
I don't know much about Giga Shanghai to know how that affects the overall portfolio, or not portfolio, but balance sheet of it. So if you look at their assets and liabilities and stuff like that, because I was researching that stuff because I was just kind of curious, more so early in the week, why it went to $1,200 a stock. I'm like, what changed? And so I was kind of doing
the
research.
deliveries helped.
Yeah, and the deliveries help, but I mean, until we have their earnings call, I don't really know what's happening within the last, this last quarter. But the deliveries do help.
Here's something to consider. In Q1, again, profitable quarter, they produced 102,000 vehicles and and delivered 88,000. So the deliveries, they get to recognize that, the transaction took
Recognize the
place. They
revenue.
collected that revenue. They don't on production. They're in the process
and to
of
be
getting
fair, those
delivered.
expenses related to unrecognized vehicle sales were not occurred. They're not
Okay.
in those expenses as well. The revenue
lot
and
of
the
that-
expenses get recognized at the same time, in the same
Right,
period.
but a lot of that production got to carry over in Q2 because they produced 82,000 vehicles and delivered 90,000, which means they didn't have to spend as much on producing vehicles as they did in Q1.
they didn't spend
That's
in
what you're
cash in cash terms. They didn't spend as much, but on an accrual income statement or balance sheet, those expenses are going to be matched up with the income, so that you have revenue recognition happening in the same period. So those 20,000 or whatever units that were produced in Q1 that were not sold or moved until Q2, the expenses related to the production of those vehicles is not going to be recognized until Q2.
Gotcha. But I personally just see profitability as inevitable at this point if they're able to pull in more deliveries. And it's mostly coming from higher profit margin.
I think that's the saving factor. The saving factor is that A, Giga Shanghai is doing crazy, and B, the Model Ys that they're pushing right now are the high margin, the dual motor
performance
ones that are bringing in bank. If these were a bunch of $39,000 Model 3s, I think that would be a different story on profitability.
Yeah.
And
sure.
the only ways that you in business, this is true across any industry, the only way you can increase profitability is either by charging more for what you do or spending less for what you do. That's the only two ways. And so they are charging more for what they do with these more higher spec Model Ys. The margins on those is a lot better, I'd have to imagine, than a cheaper Model Y.
Because of the redesign assembly, much less parts.
Yeah, and in China, that a factory seems just so efficient. But to Randy's point, though, so those are all operating expenses, right? I think operating-wise, they're going to be running a profit. The argument could be made that overall the company might run a loss, because if you include Giga Berlin build-out and some of these other projects that they're doing, like the the million-mile battery pack, those expenses are just hitting the expense sheet right underneath the operating expenses. So they're still going to be counted in as the total profit and loss for this quarter, because that is when those expenses occurred. So operating profit, though, I'm with you, Drew. I think that they're going to be real profitable this quarter, but overall profitability, I think is going to be close.
And I think they get to register more full self-driving revenue too, right?
Well, the full self-driving, that's a switch that they turn. So it's recognized as soon as their card gets charged, because they're able. It doesn't cost Tesla anything. It just a few lines of code to enable that and begin the download, and so they can recognize that revenue as soon as they make those sales. So any FSD revenue is just pure gravy. Obviously, Tesla has R&D costs that are expensed a little differently, depending on how they expense their intangible assets.
And they probably got a little bit of a peak at the end of
to
June.
Their intangible assets. Sorry, be precise with
probably got a little surge in purchases if the price was going up.
I would imagine
July 1st.
I reserved them a Cybertruck just because the price is going up.
For sure. And I still don't have a reservation for the Cybertruck. I lost my shot to get FSD at 7K ever. That's gone.
Well, you can have one of my reservations if you're ready to do it.
Yeah. When do we get the earnings calls? At the end of this month?
Typically, 3 to 4 weeks after the close of the quarter. They have to finalize
That'll be
all their
interesting.
books and make sure all the adjustments are made and everything adds up.
That'll be cool. I'm excited to hear that one. There's going to be a lot to talk about at the next one for sure.
I just want battery day, man.
Yeah, me too.
That's it.
They're working on it.
I know.
They're the exact opposite of Nikola. There's no talk and all action.
Right.
With the occasional
Did you guys
tweet.
reserve a Badger?
Sorry, what,
No.
Drew?
Did you reserve a Badger?
I reserved 6 of them. The 3D renders that they had on their website looked so good. I'm like, I don't even need to see a working prototype. I just need to see
I have to tell you. Oh my god! I got in a fight with somebody. Not a real fight. Okay.
Is that what the black guy is about? I was gonna ask, but
our audio listeners are gonna believe you.
Yeah.
I say fight just because I want to hype it up for the episode. But my sister-in-law's boyfriend.
Okay.
He's a mechanic.
Already tension.
Yes. He's a mechanic. So preface by that he knows vehicles and he's a big truck guy. And you can see what we got into a fight about. So
The Star Wars sequels.
Yes,
absolutely. Because the prequels are the greatest sequels.
Right.
You turn her against me.
Who's the Sith Lord?
So he mentioned the Cybertruck not having tank mode, and because of Rivian having acknowledged that, and I told him, I was like, well,
Rivian. How you say it?
Well, no. I would call it much less, but this is a family-friendly episode.
Okay.
So,
Tank mode. The spinning.
Yep.
Tank
all
mode.
the 4 wheels spin independently.
So, and he's like, he goes, yeah, but will it have tank mode? I want that. And so then I go, because he goes, well, he starts talking like, it goes forward and I go, we have a physical, very literal prototype right here that I was able to touch, that you can reserve, you can buy, you can do everything.
Not just that, but they have over 1 million other vehicles that are on the road right now.
Yeah.
I said here.
And that company produces cars today.
And I was like, I don't know if they'll have it, but I guarantee you this: we are a lot closer to it than your Ford. And he's like, at least I touched.
2099, there's going to be a Ford Raptor EV, which will smoke the Cybertruck, I'm sure.
Oh,
a Ford Raptor EV. I like the Raptor truck. Just the aesthetics of it. It looks really cool, and I would very much.
Call. Hey Siri, end call. Get Randy off this show. Let's see.
I think it's a good looking car. I like the front.
It's no Cybertruck, but it looks good.
Yeah, it's no Cybertruck. So then I was telling him basically it's just like talk to me when reservations and there's prototypes and this that I the whole back and forth, and I told him, I was like, this is no different than Nikola trying to do the whole, well, we have this great concept, and like, you guys are selling concepts. Ford is selling concepts. Everybody's selling a concept. This is not a concept. This is a working prototype that is 90 to 95% confirmed to be the final model of how it's going to look. This is no concept. We are in prototype phase, and all we need is a factory. That is it. And then here it comes. Yep. And so and this was all done on Facebook. Naturally, guys, this is where you can see where the
I
fight
thought this
came
was
from.
in person.
No, hang on. So he calls, he FaceTimes, or whatever Pixel's version of FaceTime is. Maybe it's just Messenger. I don't know. He FaceTimes my sister-in-law, and then she goes, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Because they're downstairs. Everyone's just hanging out, and I'm over here, and
rage posting on Facebook.
No. This was the day I put up the video of the Cybertruck. Yeah, so that's why it was relevant. And so he calls her. Oh, hey, how's it going? Wait, what? He's in his office. You want to? Okay, hang on. Hey, are you busy? And then she points the phone at me, and I just see him going like this. He's a really nice guy.
May
we
I
get
just
along.
say,
we're just teasing each other.
Tank turn is a very stupid reason to get a truck over another.
Very stupid.
For one, Rivian said it would not work on asphalt. It only works when you're spinning at a certain speed. It's not like an actual tank where it can like slowly adjust. It has to basically lose some traction on mud or sand in order to do that, which makes it practically useless. It's basically a kind of show off, like, look, I can spin in a circle. That's about it.
That's about it.
And Rivian has yet to get their factory up and running. So whatever the production model of Rivian creates could be very different from the prototype, given we have no track record to base their history off of. Whereas Tesla, we can say, okay, here's the prototypes, here's the production models, they're pretty close. Rivian, we don't know. They could end up making a production model way different from their prototype because they've never mass-produced a vehicle before. So they might make all kinds of different decisions once they go through their own production hell. And quad motors, by the way, cost more. You're going to end up paying for that.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you whatever the Rivian is, it's going to be more than the Cybertruck for multitudes of reasons. But having 4 motors is one of them. In fact, I would anticipate that the quad motor Rivian, it's not going to be a standard feature. It's going to be like a performance feature to get 4. It'll be probably north of $80,000-$90,000, which could get you a 500-mile tri-motor Cybertruck. no, it can't tank turn,
Yeah.
but 0 to
So-
60 in under 3 seconds, and
Another thing was asked is like, how come we don't talk about the other EVs and stuff like that? And we say it all the time here, and I just feel it's appropriate to reiterate now. We don't just have a Tesla bias just because we like the color red and white. It's because they're the only ones who are in mass production of an electric vehicle. And once Ford or anybody else, for this matter, even these other people who are trying to be up and coming strictly EVs, once they come out with their EVs, you bet your butt we're going to cover that, because we're very fascinated with that sector of it all, of the tech side of it. So
there's so much to talk about with Tesla. There's
Yeah.
barely anything, like there's only so much you can say about a Nissan Leaf. It's like, okay, it's not, it doesn't go that far.
and it's
Okay,
not it's
next.
nothing,
But
it's
its, but its
nothing.
headlights are specifically designed to direct the air around the rearview mirror, so you don't get a whistling at the
Right.
wind.
If Nissan comes out with something like there's nothing newsworthy covering the Leaf or the
It's about
Golf.
what's exciting. Like, Tesla is exciting. They always have something
Yeah.
cool and exciting to talk about.
They're doing stuff right now.
Exactly,
They're building
yeah.
Giga
It's
Berlin right
relevant.
now. They're pumping out Model Ys. I'm driving them around right now.
This is the
And
future. Drew
it's-
got to drive a Model Y.
Yeah, that's a fraud you can drive. You
I'm
know, whereas there's only so much you can talk about when a company just puts specs on paper, where they just say, "Here's what we're gonna do." It's like, okay, do it. But yeah, Tesla is coming up on 80-90% of the EV space when it comes to what most electric cars are selling. So you should expect that EV news will be covering mostly what Tesla is doing, just because there's so much battery technology, autonomy, performance, prototypes being tested in the real world. It's one thing to hear about a company that's going to build hydrogen semi-trucks in 3 years versus a company that's delivering their own product using their own semi-truck right now, and it can be seen on city streets driving it around. So
Sure. Hey, Drew, I got one more question for you that's not EV related,
okay.
but it is Tesla related. Is this, you don't see yourself ever getting a Tesla like solar roof or solar panel?
we might. It'll depend on finances after, eventually one day having an EV, because right now our power bill is so low that it makes very little sense to get solar, because it really wouldn't save money. It would just cost a bunch, and it would take 20, 30 years to break even. And we don't know if we'll be here this long. So it's just our power consumption's super low, but if after the EV is bought and our power bill goes up, then it might make sense, because they've lowered their prices on their solar panels a lot now. They're getting really, really cheap. So I won't say never. I think if the electric bill goes up enough, it could happen.
Just put your AC on. Just put it on.
We do, and it's still not that high. The power bill is still
Just get comfortable. Stop sweating.
Yeah, is barely pushing $100 a month, barely, almost, and
Okay.
so it's difficult to justify, and that's only in the summer months. In the winter months, we still, our stove is gas, our heater is gas. Solar doesn't
Yeah.
lower that
What's
bill.
your gas
so,
bill? Is that
Well,
a
it's-
lot
it's
more
bunched
in
together.
comparison? Oh, okay.
so I
PG&E.
don't know. Yeah, they bunch it together, so
Gas
I don't
and
know
electric.
exactly.
I'm so smart.
Pacific. Yeah, but why do you ask?
Because I've been perusing around online and looking, and
I would love to. Even if it didn't save money, I just like the idea of harnessing the energy on my house, because I just think that makes sense and it's practical. But in order for my wife to be on board, the numbers have to make sense. So we got to wait.
we
till
are the
numbers
sunny
make
state,
sense.
Drew. So I'm just saying
We're
that
very
if-
sunny. I guarantee if we got even the cheapest, smallest solar package, our electricity usage would,
Be negative.
we'd be pulling basically nothing.
I
from
don't
the grid other
have
than
gas for me. So for me, at least in the condo sense, everything's electric. So I've been
I wouldn't mind switching either. I wouldn't mind switching to a electric water heater and an electric heater. And
yeah.
it would be a lot of money, but still,
I
I'm
think
just
I
on
think I
board.
asked because I'm more curious. Like, what else? How else can I divulge myself into the Tesla ecosystem? Because I'm a happy customer of automobiles, and I'm like, okay, cool. What else you got?
service centers suck.
I think for me it would definitely be panels, though. I don't think I would get the roof.
Oh, really?
I don't think I could get, because the roof on our house was recently redone.
I remember you saying
not
that.
long before we
Yeah.
bought it, so it's hard to justify that because it's much higher price than the panels. But the panels, you can get I think it's the 4.2 kilowatt system for like $10,000.
Plus a Powerwall for
Ooh.
$8,000. It's a good
Yeah,
deal.
so $10,000 for your electric bill to be basically erased would be pretty sweet. And
Would
there's
you like
some-
that cash or credit? I'll buy it right now.
Right. When my parents got solar on their house, it was something north of $50,000.
I also bring it up because I'm actually pretty novice about the whole solar panel environment, and I'm just, as a fellow homeowner, I'm just wondering what. I'm just inquisitive. I'm being inquisitive right now. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening / watching, and we will check with you back next week when I will make another surprise test drive. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Tesla Roadster 2020.
Yeah, I'm going to have the roast.